Yes, yes. You have to tell you that I spoke copy on it. No. I was leaving the house. Thank you, God.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was fine.
She didn't seem to care.
Delicious.
Yeah, we're good. All right, welcome everybody to our budget work session today, Monday, November 22nd. We'll start with approval of the consent agenda.
Sure, I'll move we approve the consent agenda of November 22nd, 2021.
All right, I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Aye. Approval of the public meeting minutes from November 15th, 2021.
So move.
Okay. All right. Any edits, discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you for those, Kara. And approval of the non-public meeting minutes, November 15th, 2021.
I'll move in and note they are not sealed.
I'll second. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. First up, we have town clerk tax collector, Carol. Thanks for joining us, Carol.
Absolutely. So I thought I'd begin with the operating budget for the town clerk tax collector's office. And not too many changes, a couple of changes, not a lot. So the telephone budget stays pretty much the same. I think we're good on that, pretty much on target. The 41, 43, 45 computer software, I did go up just a little bit on that because they normally will increase it 3%. So I did go up a little bit to account for that. The registry of deeds, I did increase that a little bit also. The woman Jane Sanders, who does the searches, she increased her fee a little bit too. So I went up a little bit on that. Actually, I don't think I did, actually. I kept it the same. So hopefully we'll do okay. She has gone up a little bit, but I think maybe we're gonna have less work for her next year than we did this year. That is, oh, wait a minute, I skipped around. I forgot about the registry of deeds. You guys didn't sorry. That is, the registry of deeds is the same amount. The mortgage search is where the change was. Sorry about that.
No worry.
I got a little ahead of myself, it looks like.
No problem.
Carol, if I could just ask you about
Yes, of course.
mortgage searches.
Yep.
If their fees are going up, are we charging more to the individual who comes in for the search?
No, because she's the one that's going up searching. Oh, I see what you're saying.
On the revenue side?
Right.
So to pass it along too.
To pass it along to
People who
the,
are
to pass it along.
we're
Yeah.
asking for the survey.
You can if
So,
you opt for me to
because I
do
don't
that.
know the answer, why do we search mortgages? Have we searched?
Because we have to. By law, they have to search for lien holders and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Everybody good?
Thank you for that.
So then, professional services, that's the account that we do the covering of our books. So I did try to put some money back into that, and we'll see how that pans out. There's a little bit left here, but there's an outstanding bill. We're just waiting for that to come in, and Deb will pay that, so that will be gone.
Remind me, Carol, what's that?
Sure.
Well, what are the vital records you're talking about?
You know, the vital records of all the history of the town and all the records of the town, they're at the town Bates building. We get them covered and binded, and they were preserved.
Okay.
And so do we have one at $3,000 for this past year?
We actually have one big one and then a little one,
Okay,
because it's like 2,500 for the bigger one, and then he gave me a deal, 2,000, and then he gave me a deal on the other one.
okay,
But we usually try, well, we did in the past, try to do at least 2 to 3 a year, but
okay.
sometimes we have to make do with what we have.
What's left to do for those? How much?
There's
is
still
left?
quite a bit.
Really? Yeah.
No, to be honest,
And how many have we done so far in total?
goodness,
Quite a few,
Okay,
maybe,
20?
I was gonna say maybe 20, that's so funny.
okay.
I'd say maybe 15 to 20 that we've
Okay.
done so far. Yep,
And do they get digitized and then preserved, or they just get?
they just
Wow.
get preserved. I wonder if I have a book in the back. I don't think I do. They just get, they're all put in like little plastic sleeves. So the front and back, everything is protected. So
I-
down the road, you're gonna be able to read it
So
and
when-
know it, yeah.
People want to look.
Right, when people wanna look at it, they can
I-
touch it and they're not gonna hurt it.
And then they continue to live in the vault.
That's correct.
Okay.
They're technically supposed to live with me.
Right.
But
Okay,
I'm here, they're there.
got it.
But they're living in a safe vault.
Okay. That was a curiosity question, not
That's-
a budget question.
That's all right. Travel / meal, that pretty much stayed the same. The conference training, I did go up on that, and that's only because last year where it was COVID, I assumed that they weren't gonna have any in-house this year, but now they have started to do it again, so we really need to put some money back into that. It's important to be able to go to these trainings, and learn and get any of the updates from the state organization. So it's an important thing. So that's why I did go up a little bit on that. Printing, I went up on that because of envelopes. Envelopes have gone up. It's ridiculous how expensive envelopes are. So I did go up a little bit on that.
On that account,
Mhm.
what I show is that year-to-date is only about $400 that's been spent. Are you expecting some big bills to come in yet?
Yes, I am. We just got a huge order. I think it's around $1,400 of envelopes just last week. So that's another one that the bill is out, but it will get consumed as soon as it comes in. Let's see, the office supplies, I pretty much kept that the same. Not much has changed. Postage, I did the same on that too, and hopefully I'm not shooting myself in the foot on that, but we'll see how that works out. Dog tags, I did go up a little bit on that because of COVID. We have more dogs in town. So we have to have more tags. And furniture is the same. And the town clerk state fees, that's just the in and the out thing, so I don't have much to talk about on that. Any questions on anything so far? Then we'll move on to the 2022 budget line item for the election. So the election wages ballot clerks, we have 3 elections next year, so that's where I came up with the 24.96. We have 104 hours per election at $8 an hour, which gives us the 832, and then we have 3 elections. So that's why we're at the 24.96 on that. The moderator stipend stays the same. The assistant moderator stipend stays the same. And then the supervisors of the checklist, again, we have 3 elections, not 1, not 2, but 3. So it's broken down there for you for a total of $49.50. Then travel and meals for workers at the polls. We have 3 elections this year, so that's how I came up with the 525 on that. Last year, we only had the 1, the year before we had the 4. Advertising, that's $500 for the 3 elections. You'll see we did go, we undercut ourselves a little bit last year on the advertising, but I think that ended up being because the supervisors had to meet so many times because they had that 12-year merge thing. And every time they did that, they had to post something. So I think that's what happened on that. The postage for the election, that's really a tough one to come up with because, we don't know what we're going to get for absentee ballots. And it's kind of hard to look into that crystal ball, but I tried, and that we've got, again, the 3 elections. So that's why I would account for that amount over last year's. The voting machine, same thing. We've got the 3 elections. It cost anywhere between $500 to $1,500 per election. We never know what exactly it's going to be, of course, at this time of the year, because we don't know what's going to be on the ballot and what the coding fee is going to be. So again, this is just hopefully a good estimate.
Do you know if there have been any changes in state law since the last election that would impact any costs here?
No. I did get a letter from LHS the other day saying that they're probably going to go up a little bit on their maintenance contract because the machines are so old. It's a frustrating situation, but right now we're with what we have until we can figure out something better statewide.
Carol,
Yes, ma'am.
I sort of recall the discussion about electronic voter check-in. There was a program to make those check-in or the voter the list computerized.
That's probably more a supervisor question because they're the ones that control
Okay.
that part of it.
Like on iPads, right? You're
Yeah,
talking about,
so that we didn't have to have 7 books
right,
across all the tables and
Right.
then click all done.
The pilot program was made permanent. I know they,
Oh, good.
in the legislature.
Just seems like it would make it so much easier.
I know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, so that's, any questions on the election other than that from Jeff? No. Okay, so now I shall circle back to the salary portion of the town clerk's office. So my position, town clerk tax collector position, the previous board in 2019, some of you were on it, some of you were not, had decided that it was going to become a flat rate salary for the 3 years with no increase, any raise, no earned vacation, holiday sick time, so on and so forth. My term is coming up next year in March, and I feel that this is perhaps an appropriate time to evaluate and discuss a change in that. I've given everyone, I've passed out everyone a updated survey that I had received from the Tax Collector Association, and it just lists what other towns and cities and so on and so forth, what their salaries would be for your review. I believe that after reviewing such documents, that the increase that I put here is within reason. And I would just appreciate your time and your consideration on looking at it and seeing what your feelings are on that. Which you all know, I do bring along 27 years of experience with motor vehicles and about 20 years experience with everything else. So I just think that this is probably the appropriate time to bring up a discussion about an increase in the tax collector salary. The full-time wages, that's not going to change because we hopefully at some point will get another full-time employee to slip into that spot. Nothing changed with the part-time wages. And then the overtime, again, it's hard because I don't know how many extra hours we're going to need, for overtime and so on and so forth with that. But I did factor in some monies there to cover that. And that is the end of my speech.
Do you have any plans for, well, I guess maybe, do you know yet if you're intending to run again?
Stephen, quite honestly, I don't know that yet, but.
I was gonna ask you about next year, but I didn't want to assume that you were gonna run again. That's why I stopped.
Right,
Figured I should ask that first, so,
right.
yeah.
Can you repeat your question now? Because I'm
Yeah, no.
I'm a little confused.
I was
Exactly what
gonna
it was.
ask you about, what kind of changes, if any, you were planning to do next year, but then I caught myself, said, oh,
Survive.
maybe she
Survive
doesn't want to
with
run
going to
again.
right now in the office, to be honest with you. But that would be my huge change for next year, was get my third person back. Get that third person trained and up to speed.
Any further thoughts on increasing access to, online and,
I knew that was coming. Yes, that, every single time when I thought, okay, well, maybe we'll try it. There's been something all the time, every single year. The first year, 2019, it was just myself that ended up in there. So that was crazy. Then last year it was COVID. Now I'm down to only Pat and myself. So it's like every single time when I think, well, maybe we can do this now. Because I do want to do that at some point. But the timing has to be right,
sure.
But yes, that's definitely, that's on my mind,
Okay.
definitely.
I'm glad that Stephen asked that question about the
Sure.
credit cards and all,
Yep,
because that's been something that I've gotten
people ask.
calls and complaints about, and
We might be able to even consider, Ken, if we don't do the whole online thing with registrations and dogs, so on and so forth, at least getting a card reader here, so people could at least come here and use it. I don't, you know what I'm saying? That's an option. Too. At least we'd have one here, so people could pay with their debit card and credit card for registration, so on and so forth. Because it's two separate things. You can do just that, or you can do everything. And of course, that's going to be more money too.
I was just out of curiosity looking at other neighboring towns. And they take credit cards and whatever, and of course Concord does, but
Yep.
Warner does, Henniker does, Dunbarton does, Bow does.
Yep.
And a lot of them were using an EB2 system or EB2 government.
I don't think EV2 Gov will work for us because we have the Avatar software. I think that's a whole different platform.
That's Clerkworks.
Right, that's Clerkworks.
Okay, but it sounded like at least the EB2 even wouldn't work for us. They're serving over 100 towns in New Hampshire.
Yep,
So,
yep, oh yeah, definitely,
view it as.
definitely. We just have to have the right timing.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yep.
I'm glad that was you. Thank
Definitely.
you.
I wonder if you've thought about whether transitioning to the online payment system changes the hours, human hours.
I don't think it will because nothing,
Because you still
nothing
have
is
to
complete
physically-
until we do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can go online as a customer and do your registration and so on and so forth, but nothing's complete until we bring it in,
Right,
assign the decal
Yeah.
and send out your registration. So it's still, I think, the work is gonna be,
Yeah.
I think the work will still be the work,
okay,
just maybe a different fashion of it.
right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And all of these salaries that you've provided us they're all combo tax or
They're all current.
collector town clerk unless they say
Correct.
they're broken
I
apart.
think so, yes. Yep.
And are they based on a set number of hours that the person works or?
Does it say
There's a
on
couple
there?
that are left, it says 45.
I think it might extend and tell you that.
It's 25 hours for the part-time and 40 for the.
Okay. 25. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I didn't, I just wanted to make sure Anna was done with her.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
So you talked about training up a third person I mean, when would you feel comfortable with us listing that position, trying to bring someone on?
I'm hoping the first of the year, trying to get through taxes right now and
Yeah,
all that.
and, you know, assuming the town could hire someone, you know, would that timing work out okay for you if they came on board, you know, end of January into right before town meeting, basically?
That's what I would like.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm only asking because, you know, I know your time is really short as we get closer to town meeting. And I just didn't want, you know, us to be posting and then bringing someone on board if there was just too much going on until after town meeting.
Right. Yep. Well, I guess we'll know better when we get into that time frame
Yeah.
in January, how things are and what's happening.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you, good.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Yeah,
Thank you for your time.
thank you.
Hennessy is on,
Oh,
Oh, great.
so I can bring him over.
Good evening, everybody.
hi.
Hey, Chief.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. So,
Oh,
I guess I'll just get going here.
yeah, dive in.
Do you want me to share the screen or do you want to be able to see him?
Well, I'm okay with just looking on
Yeah,
paper.
I can look. Okay,
That's,
Page 48?
that's my one.
Okay, thanks. Carol.
Yeah, 48.
and there's no one else on, so they don't need to see the screen.
Yeah,
Be on the video, but
Oh,
I
that's
see.
true.
that's okay.
Yeah.
It's posted.
People can get it, yeah.
All right, I think we're all on the same page here.
All right, so I think the first couple of sections with the wages are kind of self-explanatory. I did ask for an increase in the overtime budget. As it is right now, I will, if not this pay period, will be over budget next pay period for overtime, just mainly due to staffing levels. The grants, we went over budget, but we get that back from the highway safety grants. So going over doesn't, we get the money back, so. I'm sure retirement. The contract, I'm skipping down to the contract fees. Every single one of the contract fees has gone up this year. I think we did a good job budgeting for it as to what we proposed. Let me look. I did go over some of the paperwork from some of the vendors, and I did notice a $7,000 anomaly. So I've emailed them, but they have not emailed me back. I'm a little perturbed about that, but I'm hoping that I'm correct in what I'm seeing, and we'll at least get that one decrease by 7,000, which I think would be very helpful.
Chief, just so I can understand that 7,000 would reduce the year-to-date expenditures?
I'm sorry, would say that one more time?
The $7,000 you're following up on, is that reflected in year-to-date expenditures or?
It is not, because It's for the next budget. I can't do anything about this past year because we've already paid for it, but it would be for next year. And it's for Central Square, which is our IMC software that we use. IMC user fees.
What's IMC? Sorry.
Information management control. So that's our database. That's what we use when we enter arrests or car stops or stuff like that. So that is actually going to be something that we're going to have to think of, because from what I understand, IMC is going to be obsolete here pretty soon. And we're going to have to come up with a whole new system. The state's pushing a unified computer system so that everybody can talk to one another. So I don't know what the price of that's going to be. I don't think they've rolled it out completely yet, but IMC is going to be obsolete within the next few years. So yeah, it's one thing I got to think about.
Chief, I'm probably being dense here, but are you suggesting that your proposal for 2022, 45,000 should be reduced by 7,000?
Well, I don't have the answer for that yet. I've tried to contact the company, and if I can get a answer sooner than later, then that's definitely a possibility. But I don't want to cut it and then have them say, no, this is what it was for. And I don't want to cut it just yet, because then I don't want to put me $7,000 in the hole. But that is a possibility. If I can get them to say, yes, this is what it was for, we should not have charged you for that, then that's a definite possibility.
Thank you.
Just to piggyback on that, Chief, I mean, do you anticipate having an answer on that sometime in the next couple weeks?
Yes, I hope to within the next week or two. I'm going to pressure them a little bit more. I've emailed them. Unfortunately, they don't have a phone number, and their customer service isn't the greatest. So
It sounds like they're already obsolete.
yeah, no, it could very well be. But I'm sure they don't want to give us $7,000 back either. So so we'll see, but I will keep you informed on that as soon as I find out anything.
Thank you.
Our Merrimack County user fees. Last year, they were 8. That's for the whole thing. Hold on one second. 28,000, 14 units, 28,000. So, yeah, so we're at 26,345 for 2021. They're talking about upping it to 28,000. So we've increased on that. And then Merrimack County for our prosecution, I think they went up to about 11,000, but I think we budgeted correctly with the increases. And I think that what I'm proposing should cover that fairly well. So radio repairs. We haven't had to do too much radio repair this year. Again, just lack of staffing. I don't think the stuff's been getting beaten up as much as it usually does by some officers. Travel and meals. We've almost used that up. Conference training, printing. New equipment. We pretty much use up that whole line. Posters. Gasoline and oil was the other pretty much big increase besides overtime that I was looking for. We had a significant more in that line item a couple years ago. And what I did this year is I took the average, and this was back in August, it was $2.37 a gallon. And then I took what the largest increase over a year period was, which was 15%. So I multiplied the $2.37 by 1.15 to get $2.72 a gallon. So we're already higher than that. The gas prices have just continued to increase. So I don't think that if they continue on this increase, we're definitely going to end up being short. So I'd like to give us a little bit of a buffer. I would like more than the total dollar amount that I was asking, but hopefully they won't continue to rise too much more.
Chief, just where you're on that line, I was just curious, what are your thoughts on, in the future, getting some electric police vehicles?
I don't know how they would hold up with the way we drive them. You know, I'm not saying we're speeding around town or stuff like that, but you know, the cruisers definitely have a little bit more wear and tear on them than a normal car. That's why we've tried to stay away from the all-wheel drive vehicles. I know some towns have done a hybrid. I don't know if any towns have done a full electric yet, but I wouldn't be opposed to looking into that.
Chief, I think the town of Wolfboro has a fleet of Teslas.
Oh, yeah?
Do they really?
Yep.
That's how did they,
I don't know
Manage
if they, I don't know if they were donated. I don't
Wow.
know anything about it. I just know I was in Wolfboro and I saw 3 of them at the same day.
All chasing you?
Behind me.
I'll be making a phone call.
God.
I'll be making a phone call then.
Call your friend Elon.
Yeah. We're tight. So that's pretty much what I have for the police budget. The overtime and the gas being pretty much the biggest things. Overtime, I just, you know, one town of Hopkinton hasn't had a homicide in a while, but you know, we've had 3, I believe. And if we get one homicide or one, you know, serious assault or something like that, we're going to go over budget real quick, and I don't want that to happen. So that was what the increase on the overtime was. And for the time being, we are still short-staffed. I have one applicant who I'm hopefully going to get into this January academy. And then there's a possibility of another applicant, but they won't be in the academy until, I believe it's May. So, and then again, you're looking at least till the end of the year until one of them's up and running, and then a little bit beyond that till the second one's up and running. And then I still have another position open, so.
But you're able to get enough part-time officers to cover for the time being.
Yes. One part-time officer, Bill Simpson, he's going to let his certification lapse as of January 1st. Phil Hill, he is hopefully going to come on board. He's still full-time with the prison, so he doesn't give us too many hours. But Officer Rick Walter, he gives us a solid 32 hours a week. So that's very helpful.
I don't have anything else.
Animal control.
Animal control.
Big one.
Should go quick.
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, that's about it. It's what you see for the most part. So 5,000 for the stipend. Yeah, and the FICA and Medicare. So that's pretty much all that is. It's pretty self-explanatory.
You don't need pest control.
Mice, I tell you, those things.
All right. Any other questions? Well, we have,
I know you have no control over this, Chief, but I mean, just looking at the retirement bump up, it's just the group 2, it's just a big bump up this year. It's really just an observation, not at all anything else other than that. It is what it is.
It is, unfortunately, and there's it's the state, you know, and you know, the state does what they want to do and delegates how they want the retirement to be paid for. So unfortunately, it lies back on the town to pick up the slack, and that's how it happens. It's definitely unfortunate. I don't agree with it, but that's how they're doing it.
And it was actually implemented this past July 1. So in the 6 months is in the current year, but the annualization of it was 2022. So that's why there's a big hit. That's like overall our department, it's like $50,000.
Yeah. That's 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Because it was half
Yes.
and half.
Yeah, they continue to do it.
I had inquired about where the retirement system had such a good return on last year, if they could cut some of this, but they're still in a deficit position.
The answer was no.
Yeah. Yeah, simply no.
Anything else from the chief? No?
No.
Thank you, chief.
Thank you very much for having me. Thanks for considering everything.
Have a good
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Dave.
Take care.
Bye. Now, discussion of the budget.
Time to go home.
Yeah.
Time to break out the beer.
So what you got for us, Ken?
I don't know, do we want to start with revenues and work through the whole
That
budget?
makes, yeah,
I mean, Neil did a great job
yeah.
in the revenues, and I only have a few places where I thought maybe there could be some other things. And of course, the first question is St. Methodius.
Hmm.
And Neil, still no response from him?
No, not back since I talked to them. I asked them to make sure they meet with us, so
Didn't they say that they were gonna be here?
they are gonna be there. Mike said that they were just about done and ready to meet, so
How long was that, that they were almost done?
that they're, yeah.
Was that like a week ago or like 2 weeks
That
ago?
was
or-
a week ago.
What was I forget, what was our deadline for them to get back to
It
us?
was
Well,
December.
we said we needed everything pretty much settled.
Before we did the budget.
Yeah.
So they have one more meeting, one more regular scheduled meeting to get stuff to us.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you want to, do you mind checking in with them again, Neil, and maybe? Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I can schedule them.
Remind them what the date is. That November is coming to an end here pretty quick.
The next revenue item I had was on motor vehicles. Where Neil has it as $1,360,000. And if I annualize what we've received through 10 months, be $1,420,000. So, and recognizing that the price of cars is going up, which drives the permit fees, I wonder if we should go to $1,420,000.
What was your annualized number?
$1,420,000.
Okay.
Flip side of that is there's not a lot of vehicles available.
Yeah.
Mm.
I can tell you, I've been looking for a truck for 6 months.
Things shifted very fast.
That Chevrolet used to have 150 new trucks on the lot. They have 8.
Yeah.
So that's I mean, I'm just,
That's a legitimate
I'm
point.
concerned about overestimating revenues and having to fight us.
Mhm.
That's all.
Because the revenues are gonna be what they are, no
Mhm.
matter what we estimate.
Not much. you can do.
Yeah.
Okay, I will drop that. Where Carol just mentioned about the fees for mortgage searches, what account number would that be under the revenues?
That is penalties and fees. And I thought the actual amount was charged, so.
You would hope so. Like, we don't need to subsidize that, so that would make sense.
Penalties and fees.
It's back up, it's a 3190. Interest
Oh,
and
there.
penalties on taxes.
Okay. Those.
So you think that that's already being recognized? Or-
Yes.
Room and meals you already increased. And as far as you know, that's as solid or conservative the number is.
It's kind of a moving target because we're guaranteed our percentage, but the actual tax rate is dropping. So that they'll be maybe collecting less.
What's the rate dropping to?
I think it's dropping a percentage point. I can't. Is it
Half and half now, so.
9? It's going to 8 or 8 and going to 7.
Under planning, I'll just call it planning board fees. There's 4 accounts there, including building permit fees. And I believe Karen said she was going to be looking into increasing the fee structure.
Yes,
Do we have any new numbers? Does she have anything there?
there is a new number under building permit fees.
That went up $5,000.
Right.
Ambulance charges. 31,401,06. When I looked at Chief Yale's budget for the transfers, that's exactly called.
The fee to Comstar,
Yes,
the billing fees.
the number of went from 725 to 775. And then if we were to proportionately say, well, the revenue should be increasing by the same proportion, that would change the 310 to 320 anyway. If I'm making myself clear there.
The history doesn't really bear that out. And some of it depends on, as he said, what type of call it is. If it's a.
They can only bill for certain things.
Right.
That's why.
And some of their calls that were up were lift assists, which have no revenue associated, so.
And that's why I was trying to do it proportionally.
Meaning only calls that result in an actual bill.
Well, if we were assuming that last year's budget with 725 calls, we get $300,000, and this year with 775 calls, we get more than 300,000.
We also don't know that calls will stay up. So there's a lot of ifs in there.
Have we revisited, I was listening to a bill related to ambulances in the legislature, so it's sort of top of mind, but lots of towns are struggling with ambulance service. Have we revisited, like, I know Medicare reimbursement is pretty atrocious. Commercial carriers do better, but this question around just visiting someone's house and you don't actually take them to the hospital. I know there was some confusion around, at least in a conversation I heard, towns thinking they could not be reimbursed for that when in fact they could be. Have we revisited like sort of that whole, what can actually be billed?
We checked on that, but I didn't think you could bill if there was no transport.
That's the chief.
Yeah, I know.
That's why they've been in the same house and water 100 times.
Right, I know.
Right, you'd think at some point,
I
you know.
think it's worth
You
looking.
can certainly check, but that's always been the
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah, that might be true for Medicare. I'm not sure that that's true for other payers.
And
Um,
Comstar, who does our billing, does a lot of towns, and
I
they're
see.
usually pretty good. about
Okay, so
they
they're
do
the ones that
training,
run- okay.
But we can check with them.
And there's no, and so like, if you are just like that example, let's say that person doesn't have Medicare or any insurance, we just cannot even charge that person anything. I'm not saying I want, I'm just questioning, like, is that even,
We can take them. It depends. If we have all their information, which we generally do, we can send them to the collectors and go through that whole process.
do we send them a bill though? We don't,
If
right?
they're transported.
But if they're not transported, we don't send
We do not send a bill. We do not bill for,
for
For
just,
visit.
just like we don't bill for the fire department to respond.
yeah. Okay.
Just the
It's only
benefit
when
of
they
living
get
in
the
this town.
ambulance that we bill.
But you're saying that you think that legally we could.
Well, that's my question. I have not researched it, but I know just anecdotally, I believe like some insurance covers if you just do a visit, and even if you don't transport them, there's some level of reimbursement, I think. But I don't know if whatever the company is, Comstar, if they are the ones who,
Check with them.
yeah, I mean, it's
I
probably
would
not a
say
lot,
most
but
of our transports are Medicare
yeah.
as their first insurance.
Yeah, but I thought I heard like, there's this debate over who should be paying for it. And there were comments in this hearing about taxpayers being the ones who have to pay for it. And so I'm just wondering like where that came from. Like if there are towns that are actually billing residents. And so I don't know if it's allowed. I'm not saying if it is allowed, maybe we don't want to do that, but it is maybe something worth looking into.
Well,
just
if
given
it
the
is
high
allowed
cost.
and, but we only bill insurance companies, we don't bill a residents. If you could do that.
Right,
We do bill residents if they're transported.
right,
Or we do bill people who are transported
right.
initially.
But if if there's a way to bill a non-transport visit. I mean, it sounds,
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah.
Non-transport visits.
And that we could check.
and,
Okay.
and, I don't know if, and I guess it depends on what the answer is, but if that's allowable, then, maybe we can do it after a certain number of non-transport visits,
Mhm.
a quarter or a year or something like that. Can I ask Ken before you move on? Just while we're on the revenue for the building and the planning and zoning, Neil, do you know if Aaron gave any more thought to the planning board fees? Or is that a pretty solid estimate?
She was looking, I think that's a pretty solid estimate,
Okay,
but she was looking at all the fees and we'll bring forward really up. We'll do all our fees at once across the board and make sure they're all up to date.
yeah, because I mean, if the zoning and the building permit fees, if that revenue is, the estimate's going to go up, it would seem to make sense that planning board would also, to some degree.
And those all largely depend on how many cases there are. So
Right,
it continues, like this year we've taken in $8,800.
right.
Which is really good, but if you look back, it's 4,000
Right.
for a bunch of those years.
Sorry, that's all. I had. Thanks, Kim.
The next one was actually went very much in the right direction, and you could explain it a little more, the sale of town property, and how you arrived at the number.
So all of a sudden, I realized we have the agreements that you've agreed to on the tax deeded properties. That income's coming in already. And that goes into here because we own it. It's not rental of town property. It goes in there as they're buying their properties back. And I'm sure of what we've got and what we'll sell, there'll be at least 100,000 between those, and that's probably a pretty conservative estimate.
Nice to find 100
Yeah,
grand.
It is,
Have you
yeah.
gotten any indication of when those tax sales will occur? So I should have asked Carol while she was here.
Right, well, actually, it's out of her hands now. So we're doing all the stuff for people to pay back and do all that, so. And then that takes, we have a 90-day wait period and another day, and then we can auction them on. You'll have to decide if you want to auction them in the winter or first thing in the spring.
April 15th.
We can set it to do it.
Most of the snow is gone. It's getting warmer. People are in a good mood.
It's tax day.
It's tax day.
If they're in a good
So
mood,
just,
it's tax
you know,
Either have their refund.
Punch them while they're down.
It's already lost the property.
How many do we have to potentially put up for auction? Just
Well, we don't.
8. We took 13 there. We have a couple from before
yeah.
the last time. And some people are paying them back and getting them back. So I guess 8. And as the people pay, there's also a penalty. So they pay everything back plus the 10%. So we get something, we get all our fees back plus that penalty.
Now, if those 8 are sold or resolved, the next year would, next year's budget, would there be a similar number of new ones coming up?
There should not be. For one thing, we didn't tax deed last year, so it was 2 years worth. And certainly our hope is, for the most part, we've cleaned up some of these and that they won't exist. And largely, the only people we deed are the ones with no mortgages, because if there's mortgages, a mortgage company pays the taxes.
So just thinking ahead to next year's budget, there's going to be 100,000 less in revenues, more or less.
Yeah,
I was afraid that was the answer.
possibly. Oh, sure, always the rare bad news. 100,000,
Yeah.
Ken talks about the next.
We could not sell
No,
them
there
this year and
okay.
have
there are some
100,000
good,
next year.
there are some
Or
good ones. too.
sell
There's a
them.
bond that's maturing.
So half of them this
There's
year.
a fair
half of
point
them
that's
next.
settlement won't be around next year.
That's true.
So those two cover it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, Ken's worried about next year's budget. That sort of implies that he's gonna run again.
That's right.
No,
That's-
I'm
Yeah.
trying to help this board. I did not have any other questions on revenue projections. I was gonna talk about fund balance and ARPA, but that's separate, so I don't know if other people had questions on the revenue projections.
Neil, can you put up the revised revenue totals? Is that it right there?
That's.
Okay.
And just, oh yeah, if you're done with this. So this is where we're at here. So it was over 1 million and now we're at 800,000. Which is still a lot.
Right.
Like I said, the two big positives that we haven't talked about yet is how much of the fund balance we want to use, and also ARPA funds, to what extent do we want to use that? I don't know if it makes sense to talk about those now or later.
I don't have a strong preference. I don't know if others do.
If you have ideas about them, I'd like to know.
On the fund balance, first, we have to, get a good handle on how much is potentially available. And talk to Neil, and revenue over budget for this calendar year, probably in the $100,000 range, or somewhat over that. Expenses probably minimal. So, theoretically,
Expenses, we're gonna be lucky.
yeah. So, we'd have $330,000 or so of fund balance that potentially could be used.
Well, according
How do you get that?
according to the tab right there, it's 236.
Plus what the revenue excess from 2021 of 100,000.
Right, but this is a negative 200. Over the 5%. It's under 5% because the 5% went up dramatically. And this is what we've used
So the estimate is 0, is what you said.
at the moment, yeah. Unless something dramatically
Okay, I
changes.
was misreading that one. Oh. That makes it much, much worse.
Correct.
That may argue for zero fund balance.
Yeah.
We in
Can't spend money
violation
we
of
don't
something or
have.
other,
Well, it's not negative, it's just the
it's
recommend.
not available.
It's right, we still have a $1.1 million in fund balance, so,
But they recommend we be at
Based on the
1.39.
right, based on this year's, which
Yeah.
went up. Because that includes the town, the school, it's 5% of everything we
Everything.
collect.
Right, based on the overall tax.
Yeah.
So we should, I mean, it sounds like we should not plan on spending any fund balance as part of this budget cycle.
It's gonna be tight.
It's going to be very, very difficult.
That leaves ARPA. And, how many years do we have to spend the total, or at least allocate?
Spend it, I think it's through 2024.
So 3 years.
22, 23, 24, yes.
And the total is 600,000.
601.
So one thought would be the 200,000 each year.
Over the next 3 budget
Yeah.
cycles.
Yeah. And it's not because I'm planning ahead necessarily for my own purpose.
Just sounds like it.
Second Easter egg, yeah.
I got floored by a misunderstanding of the fund balance, I must say.
I mean, that's a fair way to use ARPA. The other way, I think, would be on some one-time expenditure that we have this year. I don't want us to kind of float the operating budget on it, because when the ARPA money goes away, it's just going to be really, really difficult to, find where that money.
To account for that,
Yeah,
it's gone.
yeah.
We could certainly say, well, 200,000 this year will go to the CRF for a particular item. You have to look at what,
Of the individual warrant article ones?
Mhm.
Yeah,
and bottom line, it's the same thing.
yeah. Trying to think of what other, one-time sort of discrete things are on the,
There are not a lot of one-time
I didn't
things
think
this
so.
time.
And is it restricted in any way?
Yeah, because it's considered loss of revenue,
Yeah,
which is the broadest category. You can pretty much use it however you want.
yeah.
If we meet the criteria for loss of revenue.
Which amazed me, but I was really glad.
Warrant article. Individual ones on the very back. That's
So the CIP, the warrant articles.
Or you could say, 200,000 to public works or 200,000 to fire.
Except if you look at the plan, those are scheduled in every year.
Right,
So once you
right.
don't have it, you're still making that expense.
What about to cover some of the bond interest payments that have ballooned? Some
That's
more.
part of how
It still ends up with the same problem you asked about, doesn't it, Stephen?
That's what I'm looking at the back.
It goes crazy 3 years from now.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at right now.
So and really, currently, the amount in CIP going up is almost 10%, but the non-bond payments are dropping $1,000. It's really the bond increase. Everything else is pretty level.
In 2024, it looks like it goes down 60,000.
Really 2027, but it really drops down.
Right, right.
So that 5 years is just the $1.8 million bond.
So, Stephen, are you thinking in terms of using 600,000 of ARPA in one fashion or another for this year, or 200,000 a year for 3 years?
I mean, because there's no standalone one-time expenditure, I think I like the 200 over the next 3 years a little better. And I don't know if we apply it to the CRF or to debt service, it may not really matter. Although I think in selling it and explaining to the voters, it may be, I don't know. I mean, to Neil's point, Neil makes a good point that the CRF, those scheduled, $200,000 payments, I mean, that's what they're supposed to be. And so that makes me think that the debt service may be a better recipient of the ARPA money over the next 3 years, because that would get us to 2025.
Well, but actually, it's shown on the spreadsheet, but it's part of the operating budget, debt service.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. But it comes down, starts to come down. I'm just trying to avoid when the ARPA money goes away, having a huge revenue shortfall with the same expenses.
What if we, if we could just pull up the summary page again? What if we just had another line item, say, under other rate impacts, ARPA funds, and showed 200,000 there? Without,
Without allocating it to something in particular?
because you're gonna have to show, I think. if you
But it's
do one
still-
article.
Still one-time revenue that's gonna go away.
Well, if it's
You know, what you should
200,000.
do with it is to pay off debt. Right? Eliminate the debt service, which takes down the future payments. To the extent that you can, I don't know the balances, but, we clean up these 4 or 5 little small ones and make them go away.
That has more impact than just paying those off. It lessens the,
Right, well, it does the problem of the tax rate going crazy. Yeah, so you're taking one-time money and using it for a one-time expense.
So Jeff, are you saying that we should prepay some of these outstanding bonds
Some of them,
and just
Can be
extinguish
paid
them
off.
altogether?
no, I don't know, Neil, do you have any kind of a summary of how much we owe these various highway garage?
About 110,000 cleans up everything except the big one.
And how much is left on the fire station?
Fire station was rolled in to
Oh, it's in the-
the refinance.
And the new bond has a 0.7 or 0.8% interest rate. Certainly wouldn't think we want to prepay that.
No. Can we prepay all these bonds?
I have to check. The new bond you cannot, because that's bonds. Nor would you probably want to.
Right.
0.8%, it's basically free. But we could check on the other.
And the other thing to think about is there's some capital improvement that we could accelerate
right,
as a,
Yeah.
is there a $400,000 capital improvement that would accelerate and do now?
right.
We got sludge removal in 2023,
I was just gonna bring that up.
200,000.
We've got an ambulance in 2023 for 333,000.
Yeah, I guess I think since over the last couple of years, we've talked about a lot, sort of these bigger one-time things like the sludge removal and, in 2023, there's a pretty big jump in total appropriations for CRX. And
Yeah.
if we just took care of some of those now, I mean, we could sort of chip away at that and it would hurt less in 2023. So, and maybe it is replacing equipment maybe a little bit early. I don't know.
Problem is 2024 and out.
Right.
They're
also-
Look bad.
They're also still high. But I think the shock of 2023, but I also think we've been moving things down the road. Like that's sort of historically what every year we have a conversation. We're like, oh, let's just push that off another year, push that off another year. So I know these numbers will change next year, the next year. So if we could sort of pick back up some of those things that we thought we needed to push off for budget reasons, to avoid the shock of a big jump.
Hopefully in 2024, we have some solar money, but
That is true.
Yeah.
it won't fill in all of that.
Maybe the state will be contributing more to the
Come
retirement.
close to filling in 200 though,
Yeah,
actually.
I like the idea of paying the sludge removal out of the,
Mhm.
Well, we were hoping to have a lot of that funded by the users. That's why we were increasing the rates.
right.
Do you remember offhand how much is covered by the users?
It wasn't all of it.
No, it wasn't.
So
It
we're
wasn't all-
hoping, I think half,
Yeah.
a little
Half,
better
okay.
now, but
Right.
we'll have to go back and look at that.
But I mean, there's a lot of equipment to replace the transfer station in the next 3 years. And in the next 2 years, a lot of vehicles, public works vehicles are coming up. And I know that's the kind of thing that's just gonna get pushed down the road.
Those pretty much get done on schedule.
They do,
Because
because
there's other
hang
ones
into
right
that.
behind.
Yeah.
So they have not been pushed.
That's good, that's good.
So I'm just doing quick math. We could pay off the highway garage, the remaining two $55,000 payments. roughly. And the Rice open space, I don't even know what that is, but that's another 85,000 or so.
So that's
So that's 200,000 right there for those.
Mhm.
200,000 for the sludge removal, and then the Packer baler that the transfer station needs, and we already have the money budgeted for the replacement of the trailers for the transfer station.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. One of them is already,
so that leaves us with, $80,000 to do other things on this list. I don't know what,
Mhm.
Or save until next year's budget.
public.
Yeah, I certainly like the idea of prepaying off those bonds.
And again, it speaks to this issue of, we're actually going to lower the operating costs because we don't have that debt service anymore.
Right,
But it's a one-time thing
Yeah.
that the feds are paying.
right.
Mhm.
I think I like the idea of holding on to some of it for next year, at least next year. One thing that comes to mind is what's gonna happen at the Houston barn. So maybe we
Yeah.
wanna, tap into that. That's an unknown.
Well, I was suggesting 200,000 each year. I like Jeff's idea of the way to spend this year's 200,000.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I like that as well.
Assuming
Assuming
we
we
can do that.
Yeah, assuming we can do it.
so 200,000 this year. To pay off.
Highway garage and the Rice open space outstanding bonds. Is that right, Jeff?
Yeah.
Have to confirm you can use ARPA funds to pay off debt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not, you cannot pay off like legal settlements, I know for sure, because that's a one-time expense, but that I know cannot be used.
I thought because it was lost revenues, it could be anything.
But there are some things that you cannot.
It's not
use it
anything.
for. It cannot be spent. They specifically say you cannot use it to pay off legal settlements.
Looking at the CIP, that's $196,427.
If we did those two bonds.
And that cuts next year by 77, 78.
Plus interest,
Plus interest, yeah.
which isn't much.
This includes interest.
Okay.
These are,
The bond payments do?
yeah, they're the actual payments.
Okay.
So actually, it would be a little less.
And if we're raising the sewer rates to help pay for sludge removal, I mean, we wouldn't have to use ARPA funds entirely for that. I mean, we ought to have the users
Right,
cover some of that. That's the,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we were,
That's the
some,
plan.
of whatever the excess amount was gonna go into some sort of savings account. If you will,
yeah,
for the next time it's not just.
right.
So 35,000 is scheduled this year, which would get up to the 100,000, and then with the sewer amount, I would probably fully fund it. We're pretty close.
So maybe we wouldn't have to use any ARPA funds.
Right, unless you wanted to pay
Well,
35
No,
scheduled for, but that doesn't,
no.
so you probably would not have to. There should be enough
Okay,
in
good,
there.
good.
And then sewer fees for the next time should cover it all 100%, because you have the full 20 years. to-
Right, looking out to
take-
2035.
That should be much more self-funding
Yeah.
after moving forward. Yeah, so actually, hope with any luck, hopefully really all those expenses for sewer should come out because they'd be funded by the sewer fees.
So that's the idea. The CIP committee hasn't presented anything. Have they even met yet?
They're meeting tomorrow. But they spent a lot of time, I think they're focused mostly on the schools because they spent a lot of time on this last year. I think they're pretty ironed out, so.
I remember.
I thought they did a great job.
And nothing has really, there've been nothing really presented or added. A few tweaks, but nothing has really changed.
So if we use 200,000, which reduced costs in 2022 by 68,000, whatever the number is, by 78,000, that would reduce the percentage increase by 1.5%. So we'd be looking at
I'm gonna stick it right in here. I'm not confused.
It wasn't as dramatic.
I know. What happened? Your enter key is broken. Oh,
Sewer death.
gonna cry.
There we go.
Oh, what's
Slow.
delay?
just in terms of the way this is working, you're actually going to be reducing the operating budget by 78,000.
Because that's where the debt service payments are.
Yes,
Right,
but I don't want you to double count it.
Right.
So.
right. That's why I put it here.
Yeah, no,
I
that's.
don't want to start changing.
Yeah, no. Okay, so we're down to 13 to 14% range.
I mean, it'd be a difficult thing to put in the operating budget because we're prepaying things that aren't even due this fiscal year.
And ARPA will be off budget because it's separate, and that's how they told us to do it. So
I don't think we want to show it in the operating budget, in other words.
all that would happen is those payments will come out of the operating budget that are currently in there, the 78,000 to pay those two bonds.
So if you go back up to the operating budget line, you're saying,
So it dropped.
the 8,181,000 would be reduced or would not be reduced for just purposes of this bingo sheet?
I don't see 8 million.
Operating
Operating budget
budget expenses, yeah,
Down here.
yeah.
Okay, yes, that would be dropped by that amount because the bond payments will come out of the operating budget. Hence the $78,000 change versus even though you're spending the 200.
Yeah, sounds great. Spend 200 to save 78.
But 78 next year.
Yes,
too.
no, I know.
Is there any like large road project that would justify use of some of this money, just as another option? Where's that handout from Dan?
This is not from, I remember this is another website.
I mean, it makes sense if they would say that.
Like a culvert or something?
So I did just find on American City and County.com website, that funds cannot be used for replenishing reserve funds, payments on outstanding debt or loans.
So that is the case.
Yeah.
I think we should verify that,
Yeah.
but it directly,
I'll do that.
but this,
And there may be other ways you can. Yeah, that's gonna make it happen. We could do the boundary. What we also don't know is how much, if any, infrastructure money we'll be getting, which we'll
Right.
hopefully we can use on these projects.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping we can knock a lot of these off.
The
Those
infrastructure.
funds.
Yeah, yeah, good
But
point.
there really does not seem to be much information where that listed in general what it's going to, but not necessarily how. Because it's possible the state will get it and it will all go to 93.
Yeah.
That's,
Could we say we're putting 200,000 a year against trimming and paving?
yeah, so not, I was just thinking about this, so not increasing that line, but offsetting it with the ARPA money.
Yeah. I mean, we are increasing it a little bit, but now.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
offsetting the increase. I mean, the increase that, yeah.
you can use it to pay for salt because it's not.
You can, yeah, there
Any
are,
luck, it's gonna go back down, but who knows?
So we were saying what, shimming and paving, doing 200,000 off of that?
and use ARPA funds. for that.
Yeah,
Actually, that's a,
Yep. Yeah,
that's, I could get.
big
behind that, I think.
increase every year.
Yeah.
But then again, when it's gone,
There's such a backlog for that
I
though.
know.
I mean,
and hopefully.
Well, we have to spend this money on something too. So it's like, I get the point about not wanting to cause pain in the future, but if we can't use it for the bonds,
right, then
then,
that's inevitable.
and it's true, things like salt and maybe, I mean, salt is crazy this year, so maybe that will eventually go down, but I mean, there are other variables that could potentially go down, like gas and,
I was gonna say oil and gas.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could sell it as, or justify it as covering salt because of the huge increase. And then trying to address the backlog of shimming and paving.
Mhm.
I mean, people like to think that their roads are gonna get
Good.
improved.
That's true, you know.
I'm not gonna be surprised if they say you can use it on outstanding bonds.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Actually, I think this looks, it feels better to be spending it on.
And
On something actual physical.
I also think people voted the bond last year.
Yeah.
That they wanted to increase by that, the amount associated with the $1.8 billion. And one of the fears always is you vote in a bond and then think you don't have to pay for it. So
Right.
you cut your operating budget
right.
to match that, so.
So you're suggesting 200 into the shimming and paving line, or do we want to split it and do some salt?
I would say cover the bump up in salt from last year,
Yeah, so like
So-
50.
50, and then the balance shimming and paving.
The bump up? No, the bump up's not,
In salt,
85 to 125.
85 to 125.
it's 39,000.
Okay,
Yeah, and then the balance to the shimming and paving.
Salt,
so 40. uh,
39,000. 100.
So if we go back to the bingo sheet, summary page. Get about that one.
So it's really minus 200.
Yeah, because we'd be using all of this. circle.
At least that's in the right direction. We move on to operating expenses.
Yeah.
Anything else anybody thinking about on revenues? Guess we would start on page 24 with executive. And is there anywhere we can find $389 for reduce to get to zero increase?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I'd say no, or I would have done it.
I just thought a zero would look better, that's all.
Advertising? Is there any room? in
That
advertising?
379 looked pretty good.
How about, Ken, you can take it out of your select board stipend.
I did
Good
that
donation.
9 years ago, and it's been repeated every year.
We could not recognize anyone at town meeting.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's not a serious.
No,
suggestion.
no, it was just for looks and things, but that's okay.
To be honest, I don't think anybody really looks at individual department budgets.
Except
This budget is relevant in context.
That's fair.
Okay,
Does not change your
You know.
percentage by cutting.
I'm only saying that because it's 7 o'clock and we're just starting on the first department.
okay, fair enough. We'll go on to, the next one is town clerk tax collector. And obviously, the biggest question is the salary for the town clerk tax collector. I don't know where the people are.
I didn't see a huge difference in some of the other communities that we polled. That said, we're probably towards the lower end. I guess I have a hard time, given the budget, going all the way up to 68. And I
I
could,
was thinking, what's the difference?
yeah, something like that. And I also, you know, I've heard before that, you know, the online and all those other things and the training will happen.
Well, you know, look at some of these towns that are here. Yeah, Ossipee pays their town clerk tax like $77,000 a year. They have a huge tax base because of all the lakefront land.
Yeah.
That out of state is paid for.
Yeah.
Same with Rye. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah, sure. I paid their
Yep.
their clerk 74 grand a year. It's not really relevant to us. We're not Rye. We'll never be Rye.
Yeah. Wolfboro.
Would we tie an increase to having the?
She's not an employee. I think we can do that.
Okay,
That was your, isn't
Realize.
all right, so much for that.
Yeah, so I like 63,800. That's just me.
Do you have, Neil, can you put up that, what was the other breakdown that you had emailed us
Oh, sure.
that had the towns, what were like 5,000 to 7,000 or
Yeah.
somewhere close to
This was
us?
off the municipal association, and I shared this. I showed this with Carol too, so she had a copy of this.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to remember back, was it 19, Ken? It was, you and I would be here. Was anyone else with us when we made that decision to have a flat?
I was here for that.
It's 3 years ago. And it was decided to do that prior to the election.
Yeah,
So anybody coming into the office would know.
Would know.
yeah.
4,000 to 9,000. Average range is 56 to 71. And this is towns that have entered their information into the municipal.
Right.
It's not unwritten, it's totally written. And 5,000 to 7,000 is 57 to 61.
What was the number that Jeff had proposed?
63.
8.
It's halfway. So she asked for 10,000.
Yeah.
I'm going 5. That's an 8.5% increase.
In the 3 years since we froze that salary, what were the merit or the cost of living increases together for the 3 years? And I wonder how that compares to your number.
Small last
Well,
year.
we didn't do one in 2020, right?
Yeah.
We did 1.5% this year. And I think it was 3.5 the year before, wasn't it?
That's right.
So 1.5, 3, and 3 over those years.
7.
We did do one in 2020,
Yeah,
That was the,
before
That was-
COVID occurred.
that was 3%. And this is the merit.
So that would be 7.5%. And what was Jeff's number?
This is 8.5%.
So,
$5,000 is 8.5%. 58.
And if you're doing the same thing, it's good for 3 more
mm,
years.
which in a way, like splits the difference going forward too. So I think it's a good balance. Anyone not like 63.8? Going once?
Well, yeah, so that's Jeff splitting the difference idea.
Yeah.
And can you just, I guess I'm with, given the like great difficulties we're going to have embarking on this journey right now. And we don't know, I mean, it seems like a tough time to raise this, and it seems sort of like a personal ask, which I get for Carol, but she's not even sure she's gonna run again. So I just want to make sure this is well within the like average range, because otherwise, and I know you just had those up, Neil, is 63 right in the, because otherwise I don't really know why we would go up much with this.
So 4 to 9,000, 56 to 71, and these are the towns that reported.
Yeah.
And 57 to 69. And what we don't know is how many years of experience or any of that.
Yeah.
It's just-
And that's just sort of a weird situation, is like, I get Carol's argument and she has a lot of good experience, but she's not even
But
sure
if
she's
she's
running
not-
again. And
Right.
so,
We
so then we're
definitely don't
raising
know.
this for some like mystery person.
But I mean, whoever is running, I mean, having a higher salary would,
I get
Arguably
that, but I'm
attractive.
not sure that like, you know, this is gonna make the difference to somebody who's seriously considering it. So it seems like we would be for the 5 to 7.
There's
What
only
about
4
60?
of them. That's a
Yeah.
hard sample to draw real conclusions from, I think. Small sample.
Yeah, but 4 to 9 is a bigger sampling.
Okay, I don't want to waste too much time on this, but it does seem like an odd thing to raise it when it's not tied to like an actual person. I mean, I guess I would understand raising it some, but maybe not 8.5%.
Well, the rationale I was using of looking at what our employees have gotten over the
Right.
3 years would be 7.5. It's slightly lower.
But then you're thinking that this carries out over 3 years, so
I see.
you kind of split.
Well, it's probably, I would still say it's frozen for the 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hence the additional 1.5.
All right. If everyone else is good with this, I'm not gonna belabor it.
I
We can
think,
come back to it.
I think we're gonna have harder.
Yeah, no,
harder
I get
questions to
that.
Answer. And we did just take $5,000 off.
Yeah. It's the million to go.
Yeah.
The next one I had is professional services. We want to reduce that by a couple of thousand.
Well,
390.
so if we could do 2 books, oh, we'd only be able to do 1 book. Okay. You're saying cut that by 3 grand?
I said by 2, but
Oh,
Yeah, I think that. I'm okay with that.
How much?
cut it to $4,000.
so that pays for 1 book and
No,
like,
not 40,000.
why don't we just take 3 grand off? Because then it's clean in terms of the cost of the, doesn't it say each book is 3 grand?
Yes.
But none of it was spent for this year?
It is, the bill just hasn't come in.
Oh, okay.
it was done.
But she said he gave, 2 books at 3,000.
I think it's gonna be pretty close to 3,000 for the big book and the little book.
And, okay.
this year. I think that's what I understood.
I'm fine if you want to cut it further.
It just seems like maybe that's cleaner, it's just, if it's, we know it's $3,000 per book. This is just sort of an awkward amount.
Yeah, it's fair.
I did not have anything else on town clerk, that's how everybody else does. Election administration, I did not have anything.
Mm-mm.
Finance. And again, I did not have anything. Assessing. I had a question about the record storage. Neil, could you explain that again?
Sure, that's the cloud storage for the records.
So that's a hard number pretty much.
It is, although we're looking at other options.
Legal, I'll leave it to, decide on it.
I think that can come down.
Go to 20.
Yeah,
Mm.
Moving on, personnel administration. I really would like to hold at 3.5%. Don't know where other people are.
And say that's not out of line with what other towns are doing currently.
the 3.5, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
some are 4, some are 5, some are 2. It,
What's the 3% number?
the 99.
3.5.
No, it's 3.5. If we would go to 3 instead of 3.5.
12,000, 13,000 next.
Here, well, I can't do that.
Same here.
Had that in our previous.
We just grab the sheet.
85, 146.
Thank you.
Got it, Neil. Jeff says it's 85, 146.
That sounds-
Any updates on health insurance?
We have meetings scheduled, but
Okay.
and I went to workshops on some alternatives too, that were at the conference. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping we can bring that down and lower the costs for both, for everybody.
So that's one delay until next week.
Yes.
I guess I just to your merit wage pool, and I guess I don't know where I am yet. I kind of want to see where the rest of the discussion shakes out.
So we'll just say personnel administration category to be revisited
TBD.
next week. Next is planning. I think the only thing I had there was on professional services.
Yeah, did Karen?
390.
Yeah, Karen said we could cut one of those, right?
a scanning.
Yeah, that's right.
It was 4,500.
Yeah.
So it become 4,750. I did not have anything else on planning. Anybody else? Government buildings. Did you pull
I'm
out?
just gonna ask before we go. Is Karen's rate staying the same as it was previously? Looks like her salary actually dropped a little bit.
Her salary?
No, it's up the,
Of $200.
right,
250.
that's before the merit increase.
Okay.
So all the salaries look like they're up because it's the January, February, March, because the 1.5% took effect in April.
Got it.
So
Thank you.
The government buildings, did you zero out electricity for the horseshoe? Ever? Or 10-11?
there we go. 300.
Yeah, that's a biggie.
There, you can put that up in the, whatever you were looking for earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
The
Thank
Just
you.
make
administrative,
10.
yeah,
Thank you.
there you go. Balance each other out. I now don't even remember what that.
It's executive. And thank Donna for, when we get to the library about her,
They did work on that.
Mhm.
yeah. Okay, also water for the horseshoe tavern. 420-11. Did not see anything else on government buildings. I don't know anybody else has anything. Go to cemeteries.
Mhm.
We regularly have an issue about professional services, you know, who pays what. I don't know if people would want to reduce the professional services.
I had asked the question when they were here about this going from 25,000 to 38,000. They didn't seem to have an answer for that.
I think they added services for the cleanup, but I thought that was already in their contract, but I think they've added spring cleanup services to their contract. That's what they.
But that comes out of their own reserve, not the property tax.
Well, yeah, that was their answer. Doesn't matter, it comes out of the trust. Well, at some point, the trust will be empty if you keep spending too much.
How much, let me feel for, wasn't the trust in the hundreds of thousands?
It is. It's like 400,000, I think, or at least it was. So I think they're trying to use it so that they have it to continue. I think they're.
No, which makes sense. So I was just going to suggest that professional services, instead of 5,000, make it 4,000. Property liability insurance. I don't have anything. Police. I guess under police for next week, want to see if the chief has gotten any information on the IMC user fees.
I have the same issue I raised last year. They have never spent more than $4,000 in training, and their budget is $10,008 for last year. They want to increase it to $11,000 plus. They've spent $1,100 year to date.
Well, you just said they're sending someone to training in January, right?
There's no charge for that.
Oh,
We're paying that person
I
full-time
see.
wages.
I see.
That's where the cost to us is, but it's covered in the full-time.
If we're gonna ask Chief to get back to us on the IMC fees, can we ask for an explanation on that training in light of the actual spent in 2019 and 2020 and this year, 2021?
Sure.
Anything else on police by anybody? Ambulance. The box at the end of that meal where the offsetting revenue, that, I don't know if that was automatically updated.
It's connected to the revenue sheet.
Did we change anything in the revenue sheet?
No,
Oh, I thought we did.
Yeah.
we wanted to, but we didn't. That's right, the insurance income, it didn't get changed. So Kara, usually when I finish, I do a summary sheet of anything that's changed that you can just put in the minutes and say, this is what got changed.
So I did not have anything on the ambulance. I don't know if anybody else does.
Mm-mm.
On fire. Don't all speak up at once.
There's not much.
Didn't have anything.
No, okay. I did not either. Emergency management, I did not have anything.
Nothing.
Public works. Again, I did not have anything. Under streets and highways. I think it's irrelevant because of what we've talked about with the ARPA funding, but I want to keep like to keep the 5% increase in the shimming and paving line.
Yep.
As we move forward.
So are we not gonna, are we just gonna leave the expenses as they are here, even though we intend
I'll
to?
change them. We already took that money out of.
Oh, that's
So
right.
when I go back
Okay.
tomorrow to redo the spreadsheet, I'll adjust that.
Okay, okay.
I made notes on that.
But the salt is gonna come down and the shimming is gonna come down.
Mhm.
So on the gas and oil line, first of all, I find it a little curious that we have different rates for gas across departments. That the police are assuming one price and the people are assuming another one. And would seem something that we should have consistent across the departments, but be that as it may. 4312/635 gas and oil for highways, 30,000 gallons of diesel plus 11,000 gallons of gas. It's 41,000 gallons at $3 a gallon. That would be $123,000, not 67.
That, we don't go through that much gas. There's no way we go through, we don't have anything that uses gas.
If we went through zero gas at 30,000 gallons of diesel, that's still over 90 grand. I'm just questioning the
Yeah.
math, you know?
Yeah.
Either the 30,000 is wrong, or the budget of 67,000 is wrong.
Looking at the actuals, hopefully it's the former.
Yeah, I'm hoping 67 is right, and the 30,000 is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll check.
There's gravel, you know, with is the price for gravel up also like salt? Or?
No, because we crush our own. That wasn't available, which is why the cost was. so much.
So you're comfortable with 40 is sufficient.
Yes.
Bruce, any other questions on streets and highways? Street lighting. The transfer station.
Neil, I had asked about the green bags and you said that's appropriated. Is it?
Yes, so green bags come out of the pay by bag fund.
Right, but it's not shown here as an expense anywhere.
No, it's shown under the warrant article, the pay by bag warrant article.
Okay, thanks.
And these are Hopkinton share because
No, no,
it's
it's
on
the full share.
It's on this,
It's the
the
full,
CRF, it's only the Hopkinton share.
right, because we pay all the expenses and then bill Webster, hence the income from Webster. Which is 110.
Okay, we've got the offsetting revenue updated there. So
Right, it's all connected, so it automatically updates.
So I wonder if it would be, maybe of the only merit that we'll look at it, but what the net cost is to Hopkinton. Would be the 633 minus 330, $300,000.
Yeah, well, it's not as simple as that,
The pay
because
by
then you
bag
have to
issue.
add pay by bag revenue. But we can figure it, we can give you the number,
Yeah.
just I don't know what number you want.
Yeah.
A low one.
Zero. Yeah, anything else from anybody at the transfer station?
Mm-mm.
Solid waste landfill, 37,000 is a hard number.
It is.
Community well. Control. Community and health organizations. Human Services Administration. Welfare vendor payments. Will any more money be? I know I asked Alicia about this. But in terms of what's coming from all the different stimulus programs, if there's an opportunity to get more money through the federal government as opposed to our taxes.
We probably are not going to get more money, but there are maybe programs like CAP. And that's what Alicia does, hooks people, like fuel assistance. CAP generally will have enough money per person to do one fill of their oil tank, which gets them into January, and then the money's gone. So then we become responsible. So that, I don't think we'll have more money coming in. There may be more programs out there.
Because I think, was it the past week or so that the state was saying that they were allocating more funding for, for heating this winter.
So that,
Right, and that all goes through CAP, and most people, really much all people who receive assistance from the town have used up their CAP allocation. So maybe if the allocations are bigger, that will be good, but I don't know if we know that.
right, because, we send people to all those other sources before they dip into town funds. Yeah.
Any other questions on that item?
Mm-mm.
Okay, recreation. Kimball Pond.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'll throw out as a starting point, instead of 9 weeks, just 1 to 8 weeks. Certainly use a significant increase, but that's something. I don't know if other people have other ideas.
What does that bring the total to?
And I think, didn't Paula say then you get into difficulties of actually getting, like, people want 9 weeks because that's like a full summer job. And if you start cutting it down, then you run into similar issues of being able to hire people. This one feels tough. It feels a little bit like all or nothing. And I'm not opposed necessarily to nothing, if that's where we are, but
It almost sounded like that's where Paula was too.
because, yeah, I mean, she did make it clear, like this is sort of like the last ditch effort to try to, it is a tough situation, and it is not, I mean, it's not crazy expensive, but that's not nothing for this budget.
29,000. If we did not fund anything here, it would become just a swim at your own risk.
That would have to be a policy discussion.
It would depend on if she can get any people at the current
Right,
rates.
if we cut this.
Oh,
Oh, brought it to zero, you mean?
Mhm.
So, yeah. So close the pond. Or have it not lifeguarded.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is one option, or even like, I mean, under this setup, you've got a director and then people under that director. I mean, I don't know what it would look like if she was able to put money towards sufficiently paying and hiring like one person, it would limit how much it was open, but I guess at least then it would be open with a lifeguard.
And there's the question of swim lessons too. Is it, are we, maybe you go to just offering swim lessons with the lifeguard? How much does that?
But remember, she
Just
said
when
then
it's
it gets,
offset by,
remember, she said it gets awkward because then people like think, oh, that person's on duty. And that there's, yeah.
I remember her saying also that you couldn't, it was hard to play around with the number of people that were on duty.
Right.
They have to take breaks.
Yeah.
And if they're busy with someone, then there's nobody.
watching the rest of the,
Yeah,
So in some ways, you're better off not having any lifeguards than having
Like,
too few.
Understaffed.
lifeguards to send them to it.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I worry that if we just don't have any staff at Kimball Pond, I don't know, there's gonna be, people are gonna be really upset about that.
I was just thinking of that there would be significant outcry
Yeah,
if
I
this
suspect
select
it would be
board.
amended from the floor. to
Yeah,
increase the
exactly,
budget
to
support
reinstate
this.
the, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, I
a
don't,
nice scenario. That's what would happen.
I'm open to that conversation, but I think that there could be some people in town that are upset without more sort of due diligence on our part before we decided to do that.
Personally, I'm not in favor of going to zero on this line. And while I understand that it's a big increase, if the issue is that she can't hire people, then the money won't get spent. I mean, but if she's able to hire people, then we maintain this amazing community resource. I mean,
Well, I think part of the issue or part of the consideration is there's 6 staff here, what if she can only hire 4?
right, then it,
And then we're at risk for not having sufficient personnel there to protect, it, or we have to cut the hours back by half.
I think she would probably cut the hours last time, I think.
We did at some points like clothes going out beyond.
right, we won't go to the deep end.
There was no
But
raft.
that's
right?
really hard to do, especially if it's a
Monitor
nice
that.
day to keep people from.
Well, you're asking a 16-year-old kid to enforce the rules on a 14-year-old kid, end up in a fight.
Or another 16-year-old.
The other thing we briefly touched on was some sort of
Membership fee.
fee,
User fee.
user fee, whether it's a car sticker, and then you do have to police that, monitor that, but that doesn't seem like an insurmountable issue.
yeah, and I do
Um,
think even if people ignore it, people who actually follow the rules.
Right, there
and
may
care
be
about it.
enough people to help offset the cost
Yeah,
by, and it could be, I don't know how much it would be, but hopefully it would be nominal and not,
If you're trying to cover $15,000,
no, I understand.
it's $300 a head for.
Well, how many families might use the Kimball Pond summer on a regular basis?
no,
I
good
don't have a
question.
clue.
I have no clue.
I don't know. All of my answer to that. I don't know.
There's a $50 fee, and 300 families have to register. Pay the fee.
Mhm.
The problem, I'm not opposed to the fee. Problem is the family shows up, doesn't have one, they want to pay. They can't give it to the lifeguards, they can't give it to whoever's on staff, because they're not gonna have a roll of stickers there to give a sticker.
Right.
And if it's a weekend, that's more of a complicated, something that has to
No,
be thought through before we
Yeah.
decide to go down that route.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's true.
Well, that, and if we do a user fee and, you know, they're asked to leave and they don't leave,
Right, there are all sorts of enforcement.
are they gonna call the police? And then the police, you know, are not doing what they probably ought to be doing.
Transfer station stickers are $1.
Right,
They don't take the money there, you have to come here to that.
right. And is anyone checking stickers at the transfer station?
That's a big issue with the waste reduction committee, let me tell you. Their vision is that nobody's checking stickers
Mhm.
and that it's costing the town. People are putting things in the hopper
It
that they
is,
should.
you know, it's apples and oranges, but
Yeah.
still.
No, it is.
Especially when they've been short staffed, I'm sure they have.
Oh, yeah,
Got bigger fish to fry.
yeah.
All right, well,
So are we, I
So
mean,
I think we have two choices. Eliminate the budget, make the ponds come at risk, or approve the budget.
mhm.
Could we reduce the weekly hours as opposed to the number of weeks?
yeah, although I think the point remains that it's a full-time summer job or it's not.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's tough.
For kids that are looking for a full-time summer job,
They'll just go someplace else.
right? Because
They can get the.
That's sort of why I was suggesting this idea of like sharing with another town, like a kid gets a full-time summer job and half the time is in Hopkinton and half the time is in some other town. Like, I don't know, this is the kind of thing that I think warrants getting creative about. I don't know if there's some other, like, I don't know the other towns around here, if they have
they're all
open town.
looking for full-time summer lifeguards.
I guess-
Right, but if the option is nothing or a half-time staffed lifeguard stand, then I think you'd go with, 20 hours instead of 0.
Find that the kids that work at Kimball Pond are kids that grew up at Kimball Pond
Yeah,
and aren't necessarily, if they're looking.
don't
for
wanna
just
go
money,
somewhere
they're looking to just go somewhere, they could go to the pools and Concord.
yeah,
Somewhere. So I'm not, it sounds good in theory, I'm not sure
yeah.
how that would actually work.
I don't think I can support cutting this. I think,
Can we use ARPA money? Seriously,
yeah, I mean,
why not take 10 grand from ARPA? To see if this attracts anybody.
I'm honestly fine with this coming from taxpayer money. And then if it ends up working and we can fund it, then we have a year to think about a creative way to fund it.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that's user fees or some sort of a employee sharing agreement or what, but if this doesn't work, then next year we're not going to do this.
Right.
And at least we can say, we didn't just pull the rug out from under people all of a sudden.
I'm also fine with it coming from taxpayer money as a first choice, but if we're talking about having it go to 0, then we
Yeah.
need to find something.
Yeah.
Like if
I think there's a lot of people that use Kimball Run.
yeah,
I think that it's a beloved sort of asset in the community.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have swim at your own risk, it doesn't mean it's closed, just.
Totally true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right, just means there's not a lifeguard,
yeah.
which, right, may not necessarily dissuade people from going,
I don't think it would. I think a lot of people would still go.
right?
Okay, well, maybe we can put a little pin in this.
Okay.
I did not have anything else on recreation. Anybody else? Okay, then buildings and grounds. I did not have anything. Anybody else? Library. Based on Donna's email, is reducing the one account 430 by 1,000.
Which is already done, sorry. $8,000, right?
Anybody have anything else on library?
No.
Patriotic purposes is zero. Conservation is $1. I didn't get for years. Jeff?
Cut it.
I'll have it to 50 cents.
That didn't round up.
It'll round up, right?
Economic development, do we really
Got
want
it.
this?
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
No, I did not. I guess something thrown at me. I don't have anything on economic development. The debt service principal, we don't have any in touch. The tax anticipation note, don't we talk about zeroing that out?
We did talk about it. You hadn't made any decisions.
Okay, we okay with zeroing that out? Neil, you're okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. That brings us to sewer, but I don't know if anybody had anything on sewer.
In general, it's irrelevant because
Yeah.
we just lower income. Not that you shouldn't look.
So you want to go back to the bingo page?
Where are we now?
Yeah, I don't.
We're nowhere.
Yeah.
I think that's correct.
Ooh.
No, 8% is $51,000, just for ballpark.
Wait, say that again?
1% impact on the tax rate is about $51,000.
Oh, 1%.
I see. I thought you said 8%.
I know, I heard that too. 8%, 1%.
And this is with our ARPA money?
With 200,000.
Okay. What happens? Let's just see, what happens if we do 300,000? I'm just curious. That'll come down to,
2%.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to see it.
Excel work, imagine.
So I guess one sort of conceptual question is what can people live with in terms of that bottom line percent right there?
That's heavily influenced by the increase in the school budget.
And
That's true.
Yep.
Because if that distracts people, then how it doesn't get scrutinized, it's supposed to.
Yeah.
should I repeat what I heard at the budget committee?
Yes.
Sure.
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, that Mike Glenn was talking about a 2.5%, up to 2.5%, maybe a little below 2.5% increase. But they would also be using URSA funds, which are not reflected in the 2.5%. And at least the teacher's contract impact would not be reflected in that. And I think that's where it stands. Do you have any better feel?
If you, do you know if you take into account the teacher contract? What?
It's an unknown,
Okay, oh,
Yeah.
because they're still negotiating.
as far as I know.
Okay.
And I'm not sure about the other smaller contract.
This is how they got into such a public relations issue last time. using one-time money to pay operating expenses, so there's a huge jump after that. And I can tell the people who complained about it last time are gonna look at that and say they're doing the same thing. If I don't know.
in their defense, in Mike's defense or Norm's, I think they are trying to be more transparent. And I pushed them, to get some kind of bingo sheet like we have. I don't know what the final product's going to be, but they are, from my perspective, at least with the budget committee, they're trying to become a lot more transparent than they were.
So can you remind me, what was our increase last year? Wait, is that? You don't, I mean, not in your brain. I didn't know if you had it handy. Because I can't recall.
It was,
Is that in the book someplace?
no, because I was thinking, because we don't go back 2 years.
Yeah.
Around 4?
So, I mean, part of the challenge is I feel like this is a very reasonable budget that just reflects what we're living with the exception of maybe, I mean, I guess the pond would be 30 grand, but that's not even going to take it 1%.
It's a drop in the bucket.
And so I hesitate to, I know that we set goals that we want to like stay within, but I hesitate to just.
Yeah, I mean, I can defend, the increase in the bond costs
Mhm,
are almost 5% on their own.
mhm.
The increase from the state on the retirement is another
That's
percent.
huge.
The fair point is another
50
percent.
grand, yeah. Gas and electricity, both are up, right? Or at least gas.
Yeah, electricity. I mean, all of that, we don't have that. I'm sure Neil could pull that together for me, but I don't have what that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough year. And I think it's reasonable to do what we're doing with the federal money.
I mean, if you factor in the 5% just from the bond payment, we're pretty close to our target of 4%.
Neil, if you
That's
want,
with the extra 100.
yeah, if you want to take out the other
Yeah.
extra 100 grand, sorry about that. I just wanted to see that. Thank you. Yeah.
So last year, what we presented estimated the use of $421,300 in fund balance. Luckily, it came out less, and the increase was 251,000 or 5.15%. The tax rate was an increase of 4.63%.
And we don't have the estimated tax rate now based on this increase.
723.
Yeah, 723, so it's 69 cents, 10.55 is the estimated.
Can we stop at this point because we want to hear more on health insurance? I'm
Yes.
hoping that's a relatively big number. In
Yeah.
the right direction.
Yeah.
I would certainly like to get the tax impact in the single digits.
Yeah. We have a couple questions on police. Maybe that won't be huge, but it's something,
So
right? And then the health insurance is a big one. And
Right, the Kimball Pond and then the Miracle are all the
Oh, yeah.
outstanding.
yeah. Yeah, those were things we flagged. And remind me if we took it down 1%, or I'm sorry, I went from 3.5 to 3 on the merit, it would equal, did we,
It's like a $15,000 difference.
oh, okay,
It's not
not
huge.
huge. Yeah, I mean, I feel like at this point, I'm not sure what else we can do in this moment. Ken, do you, I mean, so yeah, it sounds like you feel like you could defend this as is if needed. And there's nothing crazy in here,
I
because
could-
we're stuck with.
I could try to defend it. I don't know
Well,
how successful I would be,
yeah.
but I mean,
I would love to hear where the budget committee would cut. Because, yeah, I mean, I guess.
I think I can explain it to the budget committee.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna understand a lot more. It's at town meeting, people just gonna see 10%.
Well,
Some of them will.
Oh,
Yeah. Yep. Which is understandable, but, I mean,
oh, yeah, if I'm living paycheck to paycheck or close to that, 10% would scare me.
yeah.
Hopefully Neil will find something else like the sale of town property.
Well, if you sell horseshoe, those are still one-time revenues, but
Right.
But it would help next year's fund balance.
it would,
Considerably.
it would,
Yeah.
that would help a lot.
Can we sell it within the next week?
Are you, make an offer?
wait, and I did not I did not drill down on the infrastructure stuff, but there is potentially, I mean, I assume there's some more federal money coming that we could potentially use on roads and.
Yes, I don't think it will offset this, but it might start knocking off this list.
Yeah,
Oh, there's the big question. I've been trying to research. Can the state grab all of it and not give any to the towns?
Hmm.
I
I don't know if the municipal association is waiting on that or not.
I have not heard anything from them, so I don't think they've heard anything. Because they're usually very good about getting things out.
I've not heard, I don't know, but the National League of Cities is usually a good resource to check. They have, you know,
And it seems like cities are getting some other money to that.
yeah, it's different depending on like your population size, basically.
Like the ARPA money directly, there are 5 cities in New Hampshire that receive direct funds. They're the municipalities that usually receive money, and usually nobody else does. The ARPA money.
does anyone else feel like there's more we can do tonight? Like we gave it a pretty thorough go. We've got a few big questions open, but. Retirement is just, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's like we live in a state that pushes that onto municipalities, and this is what we live with, so. You know. There's really nothing we can do about
Good
that.
news for the school is they absorbed that whole increase in this budget. So they should not be increasing 22-23 budget because of retirement.
We haven't talked about the individual warrant articles, the CRF and trust funds,
Oh, yeah.
and that's,
What we've used was what the CIP committee gave us they
Right.
gave us last year
for this year.
2022.
Yeah,
And as Neil said, they have not met yet.
yeah. So there's potentially changes there.
And this
still.
dropped, this dropped 5% from last year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
The only changes would be pushing things off.
yeah. Yep,
Right, exactly.
and I think they did a very good job last
Yeah.
year, recognizing that we were going to get hit hard with debt 2022.
yeah.
Okay, well, we wrap it up for tonight.
We made good progress.
Yeah,
I do too.
I mean, yeah, I feel like we've not left many stones unturned here.
Almost half of where it started, between the revenues and the,
Yeah,
we could cut it in half again.
Is that your expectation?
well, thank you, Neil, for your continued work on this. So next week, we'll hopefully have a few more answers and we'll work with what we have. If anyone has any brilliant ideas between now and then, bring them. Oh, God. Okay. Anything else? Other business, anything? Okay.
Probably will not have minutes next week from this meeting, because this is a short week.
Yeah.
And a long meeting, so.
Yeah, no problem.
You captured everything.
Yeah, we can do the, it's all in the spring.